to the Interlude with Drew.
What's up, people? This is Andrew McCain. This is the Interlude with Drew. Welcome to the third episode. And I have a special guest here with me, the Deacon, Kevin Powell. Hey, he looks surprised, but guess what? He actually is a deacon for real.
I really am.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. He's ordained as a deacon and everything. No, this is my big bro right here, man. Probably the musician I look up to the most. It's funny because I almost got the idea to do a podcast from every time I be around him because I literally be interviewing him every time I see him. I always come with a question about his experience, about his music career or something. So I appreciate you taking this time out, Kev, out of your busy schedule to do this, man.
Hey, I'm honored, man. You know, we try to stay busy in the middle of this pandemic, in the midst of this pandemic. But at the end of the day, there's a whole lot of folk that got a whole lot of time on their hands, and I'm blessed to have time on my hands because that means I'm still alive. So
Sir,
I thank God for that.
that's the word. Deacon preaching already.
Woo!
So all right, so you already segued right into my first question. So we are still in the midst of a pandemic. It's 2021, but 2020 was a rough year for everyone. Many different challenges. How was it for you?
2020, I have to honestly say, my heart goes out to everybody um, all over this world, really, that has been affected by this pandemic. I think we all been affected in some way. However, I will say, 2020, God showed me, and I think it was crazy. We were in Bible study, and my mom posed this question in Bible study: "What are some of your takeaways from 2020?" And one of my takeaways was simply that God showed me in that year that it doesn't matter what they're saying is going on in the world. When he decides to do what he wants to do, whatever blessings he decides to allow to overtake you, he's gonna do it on his timing. And so even in 2020, where I've lost some close friends, I've lost some relatives, I've lost people in my church, um, friends and family members that have died of COVID. And even at the end of 2020, losing my grandmother, my last remaining grandmother, kind of struck a chord in my heart. But I honestly can say, 2020, for me personally, I'm just grateful I made it. Um, God opened some doors even in the midst of the pandemic that I was like, really? Like now? And it was just like crazy, like, and praying, God was just like, just be ready. In my prayer time, God was like, just be ready. And when I thought I was just gonna have to, find something else to do, or, just stay in the house and wait until things get better, God started, opening doors, in the music field and production, how everything shifted to production and shifted to, doing things pre-recording and doing stuff for different churches. God just started really opening doors and blessing me in that aspect where I'm like, I didn't even see that coming. So 2020 um, showed us a lot. At the end of the day, we got something to be thankful for. And when God gets ready to bless you, he's just gonna do it. It's not about a year, it's not about a time, it's not about a date. Folk like to throw out dates and all that stuff. But listen, 2020, I will say, literally was one of my, in a long time, one of my best years financially, as a musician. And I didn't even see that coming. But it pays to stay in God's face. It pays to pay your tithes. It pays to sow seeds. It pays to do all that stuff. Because when God get ready, it don't matter what, it don't matter what man say. It don't matter what, it don't matter. He's just gonna do it. So, that's really 2020 for me. That's really what 2020 is for me. That sums it up.
Sir, I'm glad to hear that, man. God definitely makes a way in the wilderness, man. So when everybody was counting out the
Listen,
year, saying it's a bad year, God is still providing, still opening doors, still making ways.
listen, bro. And that's facts all day, man. That's facts all day.
Yes, sir. All right, so I want to take it back to the beginning, your foundation. You come from a very musical family, which I feel like most people know, but not everybody knows. So give me a brief background on your musical background and everything as far as your family.
Well, so it all started one day, um, in 1986. No, I'm joking. Um, my dad, really before my dad, my whole family just took on music. Both sides really. My mom, she went to school. She took piano and she sings. She's an amazing singer. She even, studied piano for a long time, even in college.
Oh wow.
And But my dad's side of the family, my grandmother was an organist. Uh, my grandfather played the banjo, the harmonica. I had an uncle that I never met named Lofton, my uncle Lofton, and he played. They said he played stride piano like Art Tatum.
Oh
I
wow.
never got him. I never got to meet him because he was one of my father's uncles, and he died long before I was born. But He was an amazing pianist, and of course, it just matriculated on down. My father, who was a innovator of gospel jazz. I don't care who likes to try and take that credit. Nobody was doing it before Hubert Powell,
Yes, sir.
and that's a fact. Hubert Powell started and innovated gospel jazz, and because of him, you have the people like Ben Tankard and all of the other folks that are doing gospel jazz. The Kirk Whalums and all those people. But my father, uh, Stellar Award nominee, Dove Award nominee, gospel jazz artist. And Then of course, you just keep going on down. My uncle, I have an uncle, the late Ivan Powell, who basically changed the game for gospel organ. Who was one of my most major influences on organ. Is the great late Ivan Powell Senior. He was just that dude. And then my brothers. I got cousins, host cousins, my brothers, Doobie Powell, basically got his own genre of gospel.
For real.
And Billy has his own style. Billy's an amazing drummer, singer turned preacher, rapper. Billy tries not to rap that much anymore, but Billy
Right.
can really rap. Like that man can flow for real.
For real.
Then you got, it's a whole bunch of us, honestly. Like it's, my little cousin Ivan Powell Jr., Brandon Hodge, they call him Bam, super producer, out in Chicago now. Stenny. That's just a whole bunch of us. Like we all are doing music. My family has just been very musical for a long time. My aunt Pinky Hodge. Just so many of us, man. God's been really good to my family when it comes to music. That's just been our go-to, all of us. So it matriculated down. I'm honored to be a Powell. Um, and we got a lot of history in here. We've been, Kojic our whole lives, and my father worked with Dr. Mattie Moss Clark for many years in the Church of God in Christ music department, and taught songs on. Some of y'all seen the movies when they were talking about the UNAC conventions and all that stuff. And my
Yeah.
dad was actually, it's crazy. My dad was actually at those conventions with the Clark sisters. He taught songs, and he was actually at the funeral of Maddie
Oh
when
wow.
Dr. Mattie Moss Clark died. He was
Oh,
there.
Oh man, I mean, not to
You
laugh
know,
at the funeral, but you know that's a story.
like you see the movie and it's like, my dad's like, that's not really how it went at the funeral. I remember that wasn't
Okay,
that.
I was gonna ask. I was gonna
But like, we just, so, God has opened so many doors, through us, through my family, just, indulging in the music industry. We've been blessed to do a lot. We're very blessed. I'm blessed to be part of this family. I'm just
man.
blessed.
That's incredible. Because to be honest, like I think if you ask most musicians like where their influences come from, most musicians won't be able to say like this long line of great musicians come from their own family. Usually you got to look outside. So I know that's a true blessing.
God has opened many doors. Like, people like, oh, you tour? Like, yeah, who you tour with? My dad. Oh, okay. Like, no, like for real. Like my dad been
So
touring
he's really
Japan.
touring.
He's been touring Japan for like 20. He toured Japan for 20 years straight. He just stopped touring in Japan in 2016, I believe. That was like his last time going over there, and that was because he needed to take a break. He needed to rest, regroup, get his health back in order, all that stuff. And then all this happened. So I was just like, I've been blessed to say like, yeah, I've seen the world with my pops and Doobie and Billy and all them, just doing things, so I'm definitely grateful. I'm definitely blessed. I don't take any of that for granted.
Yes, sir, man. God is good. So what was it like being over in Japan? Like what was the reaction to the music and how did the people treat you guys over
They treat us like rock stars.
there? I can
Honestly, it was
imagine.
crazy. Like Japan, if I had to live somewhere else, I would move to Japan in a heartbeat.
Oh wow.
Um, Japan is beautiful. People over there, they love gospel music. Um, they appreciate it, and the same concerts that we would try to put over here, and you hardly get 100 people in the room. We performed in front of 4 or 5 thousand people,
Wow.
over there, and 10,000 seaters, and it was like jam packed, full of people came to see us. We were the
Yeah.
only we were the only people on the ticket. You know what I mean? But Japan is lovely. I miss it. I really hope to go back one day soon. Hopefully when all this is over. But it's just they're so ahead of us, man. Technology wise, Japan is so ahead of us. They have they just I don't know, man. They're just so smart, so intelligent, and they're so clean over there. You probably could eat off the streets over there. It's just so dope.
Oh
You
wow.
know, and they're just way ahead of us and everything. But Japan is really dope. I encourage everybody go to Japan, eat their food. Man, their McDonald's is even better than ours. And I don't even eat McDonald's no more. But listen, their McDonald's tastes like gourmet um, food made in heaven.
I recently heard somebody say that about Germany. So we had to
And I've
block
never
them
been to
down.
Germany though. That's crazy. I got to get over there.
Yeah.
I'm
So
scared to go there now, but
yeah, right. So I'm gonna just assume that Japan is your favorite overseas place that you've been to.
absolutely, absolutely. I've been blessed to go a couple places. I've been to Paris, Italy, um, been to those places. Of course, Africa. I go to Africa every year. I love going over to Africa, but like Japan, Japan is it. Yo. Japan is that place. I love Japan.
All right,
You got to
so
get over there one day.
I
They'll probably
do,
think
I
you. They'll
do.
probably think you're a basketball player. They'll look at you like you're crazy because you're so tall, and they'll automatically know you're an entertainer, and they would like follow you. They'll love you. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm a Wizards fan. Rui Hachimura is from Japan. He on our team.
Oh
So,
yeah, we
and
we just
I know
beat y'all.
they treat him like a god just because he made it to the NBA. I think he's the
Yeah,
first. He's the first Japanese NBA player. So yeah,
I gotta look. I gotta go back and watch the tape from when my Celtics beat y'all the other night. Was it last
all right,
night?
all right,
I gotta go look to see if I can
all
find him on
right.
the bench.
So there's an interesting story that I feel like should be more popular than it is because of how it's almost ironic, but it is dope to me. But you talked about how seeing this extremely great musician at 4 years old inspired you to play keys. Who's that
Oh,
musician?
man, you'll never guess. Um, he goes by the name of Corey Henry. Corey Henry, me and Corey Henry have known each other literally uh, 30 years now. I met him. I was going turning 5, and he was turning 4. He's like a year younger than me. And his mother, his late mother, wonderful, wonderful lady, brought him to our old church on Worcester Street in Hartford. Um, Anybody that knows about Holy Trinity Church of God in Christ, that is a very legendary church in the community in Hartford. 114 Worcester Street was the place where a lot of things, a lot of people were birthed. That was the place, where Kurt Carr got saved. That's where he got discovered by James Cleveland. And, he was at my church. He was the piano player. That's when he got introduced to the Clark sisters. That's, the church that Bishop Hezekiah Walker would come and train our choir before anybody really knew who he was. He would come and train our choir and work with the choir and James Hall and all of these people. Like it's a very historic church. And we would have these concerts and musicals all the time, and one time, this lady called my dad and she asked, could she bring her son to the church? She said, oh, he can play, I want him to come to your musical. My dad had a musical or something. And she brought him and we seen him coming in, all, just little kid, and we was like, okay, well, we gonna let him play. And he got on that organ and played in every key. And he was only 3, turning 4. And I just never forgot it. Like Doobie actually was accompanying him on drums. And Doobie was sitting there like, that made Doobie play.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that
that's
that night, it
that's
was
crazy.
like he saw that, he was like, okay, this is crazy. Like, and he started really playing keys after that night, But we were all there, we were all in amazement, like just seeing this guy with this part in his head. He couldn't even sit on the organ bench. He had to lean back because he was too small. And he governed when he got on, he governed the service. Like it was like breathtaking. Like they were like telling him to go to like G. Oh, go take me to G. He went to G, like playing in G, like shouting them, like going in, playing songs. They doing devotional songs and all this stuff. Oh, I don't like G. Take me to D. Like he's like going to the keys and like playing. And I just remember everybody being just marveling at the fact that he was really doing this. That like after he got finished playing, I remember my dad sat me on his little table, like he's a pastor, so he got this little table where his seat is, and he stood me up on it and was like, "Watch this." And Corey Henry slid on that organ, and my life was changed from that. From I was like, well, and I didn't understand nothing about no prodigies and stuff. I didn't understand nothing about any of that. I just said to my dad, I was like, man, I want to play too. Like he doing it. I'm just in the kid mode. Like,
Yeah.
what he doing? I want to play. And my dad prayed, he prayed for me. He said, you gonna play. And after Corey Henry played, he got I think I remember, I don't know why I remember this, but I remember like asking him if he wanted to go downstairs in the basement and play around. Like, because they had dinners down there. We had kids stuff down there. I was like, yo, let's go play. And all of a sudden he made his way back to the organ. And like I remember like all the people, like my Uncle Ivan, all these folk were just around the organ just watching him like, this is really happening. Like this cat is really like blazing at the age of 3 or 4. Like it was really, people don't understand how special the Corey's gift is to the world, because like what y'all are hearing is a grown up prodigy, somebody that was really amazing in his toddler years. And at the age of 8, I think he was playing traveling with Timothy Wright, you know. at 8 years old, like he was doing full gigs and telling on. I remember my brother DW, Dwayne Wright, was telling me about times where Corey would be telling on the other keyboard players because they were transposing.
Oh man.
He wasn't, and he was like 8 years old. Like, yo, we transposed. Like DW would tell me some stories. It's hilarious. But Corey definitely, somebody I look up to. That is very, inspired me in so many ways. That's the dude. Y'all see what he's up to now. You know, I'm just glad I was able to witness what people don't believe. People still don't believe me when I tell them that story. Like, no, he was 4 years old playing in every key. Like, I saw it. We have it on cassette tape somewhere. Doobie has the cassette tape. I hope he still has it. But we had it recorded. Like I would listen to him like every day, like, yo, I can't believe this. This dude really played in every key. Like I would listen to the cassette tape every day. So like, it's documented.
Yeah, yeah. That's incredible. Because
Yeah.
for me, like the crazy part is that prior to that night or day or whatever it was, you weren't playing any type of keys. And
Nah,
even further, Doobie wasn't playing any type of keys.
nah, not really, nah.
Both of you guys were drummers. So like it's incredible that like we know Corey to be like probably the greatest organist in the world, based on who you ask. You ask me, I think he is. And then you
He's
get
definitely the father of this generation.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Then based off of you seeing him, now we got another one of the absolute greatest organists, keyboardists in the world, Kevin. And then Doobie that influenced a whole generation with his sound. It was basically birthed in a time watching a little 3 or 4 year old playing. That story is incredible,
It was crazy. And I don't take. That's why every time I see Corey, I have to give him his due, man. You don't forget where you came from. You don't forget the people who blessed you, inspired you. Corey's one of those dudes. It's like, yo, when he come in the room, I gotta pay homage to him. That he definitely was a huge inspiration because I seen my dad play. My dad, play. Everybody was influenced by my dad. My uncle Ivan played, but growing up into that, it just became it became normal for me. It was a normalcy for me to be around that. So it didn't have the effect on me. Like
man. I
you
get
be
that.
around something, it's just normal. Like, oh, everybody out here can sing. Everybody's dope, and then it's like you don't really take a step back to realize, of course, I'm young at the time. So it just like when I heard what, what my pops and my uncle Ivan and a couple cats was doing in their playing, when I heard him do that, I was like, okay, so this is different.
Yeah,
This is not normal. So I mean, it just yeah, man, it definitely influenced me, man. Definitely.
that's crazy. All right, so you described Corey as a prodigy, of course, being that he was playing that well at that age so effortlessly. So you being inspired by that, how was your journey? Did you have like a uphill climb, or did you feel like once you started playing, things started to come pretty naturally for the most part? What was your journey like?
I took a hiatus actually. Like my dad, I remember like after I seen Corey, I started like we had like Juno here at the house. This is before we had all this stuff in here, and my dad bought Doobie a Juno, and I would sneak in Doobie's room at the time, and I would like try and play his Juno and stuff, and I just be like just messing around on it, and then finally my dad showed me some chords, and I ended up learning how to play shout music. I don't know why I was messing around,
You
and I
played
heard it. I was like, okay, shoot, oh yo, that's it. And I'm playing. I'm like, Dad, look, and I'm playing. It was an E flat. It was the first key I learned how to play in, and my dad showed me some chords. He showed me how to turn the shout music around from the 1 to the 4 and all that stuff. And it was just like, oh, okay, bet. And I took a the first choir song I learned how to play was I Will Go in Jesus' Name. I played it completely wrong,
small.
but I I played it completely wrong, but that was like that was my first, solo. Like, my dad would make me play for offering all the time. Once I learned how to do that, dun, 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 and he was like, "You playing for offering every Sunday for like a month, a couple months straight." All right, Kevin, get on the organ. I had to play that song. And then I kind of took a hiatus because I really got serious about drums because I was like, drum seems easier. So I was just like, I kind of like stopped playing. I always knew how to play, growing up, but I kind of just like focused on drums, like really, because that was my first instrument. So I was like, well, right now, I have a better chance at playing the drums. So let me just do that. And I think around like I was 13, 14 is when I really started taking it serious again. Because my Uncle Ivan was gone. He was on the road. He was on the road with John Key. He wrote, my Uncle Ivan wrote Stan. He did a lot of arranging for John P. Key, Show Up videos, Strength, all them videos. Um, and he was on the road with John. And then when he stopped traveling with John, Karen Clark picked him up. So like he started going on the road with Karen Clark, going everywhere. So, Doobie, it was just Doobie back at the crib, at the church, and Billy on drums, and God rest his soul, my big bro Keith, who just passed, Keith Harper was on bass. And, I just started, sneaking up on organ again, like, okay, well maybe I can try and play with them. And I just started taking it serious. And the Lord just started, giving me I learned how to play by ear. So, like, the Lord just started giving me inspiration. And you know I never really learned a lot of things hands on, with nobody. My dad was just like, "You don't play it right." I was like, "Okay, whatever that means." So but it's like, my dad always had, little nuggets to drop, and to tell me or show me, you know, what I need to do without truly being hands on. Is like, okay, I definitely hear you. So I had to just, listen. A lot of my learning experience came from watching. I watched my dad. I watched my Uncle Ivan every Sunday. I just watched. I didn't come up to them after church and ask a million questions. And you did something at approximately 10:59 a.m. in the service, and I want you to show me that hands on. Like, I didn't do that, man. I I watched. I sat there and watched. No questions asked. I just sat there and watched. And that's really how my journey just went.
That's incredible. So I like to ask this to a lot of the musicians I look up to. So when you really got serious, um, ballpark figure about how long were you practicing every day?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I came home from school. There was one point I had it bad. I failed in school because I was just not trying to do any work. I was only trying to just sit on. I can't even tell you. I really don't. I just know I failed. I stayed back in seventh grade because I didn't do any work.
Oh wow.
I stayed back. I failed. I failed because I was not trying to hear it about school. I was like, look, I had the Jones. I had the music Jones in my bones real bad. And I was just like, look, I'm just trying to be in here playing and, trying to learn how to play in these keys. And I can't even tell you how long I practiced, but, that was the key right there. I practiced.
Yep.
I didn't just sit up there and go on YouTube. We didn't have YouTube back in them days. I'm
No
old.
sir. No sir.
I didn't go on YouTube and just look at somebody else do it and say, okay, got it, and walk away. Nah, like we had to sit down and really literally wait on the Lord to give us a lot of inspiration and stuff. And especially, coming up in church, it ain't a whole lot of books to teach you how to play in church.
No.
My dad would make me get on the organ at Bible study, knowing that them mothers was gonna sing in any key, knowing they wasn't gonna care that I can't play C sharp any harder. I'm looking at them like dun, dun, dun. They still gonna sing in G.
Yep.
I can't play in G yet. Not there yet. But you know.
Yeah, that's the thing though, because I mean, that we got a different type of training in we when we come up playing in church, because if you playing and somebody's singing, they're not gonna be like, okay, he only plays in C sharp or E flat. They're gonna sing wherever it's comfortable, and if you don't follow them, you're gonna look crazy. So that's the
You're
type
gonna look crazy.
yeah. So with this is obviously a totally different time. Like we got like you said, the YouTube generation now. A lot of people, if you want to learn how to play keys, there's a million tutors on YouTube that you can just learn for free. You can learn any song that you want to play just by going and watching a YouTube clip. So what would you think about what would you say about the difference between just learning it and grinding and having to listen, especially back in, you're a little bit older than me, but I definitely grew up in the cassette tape time where you want to learn something, you got to rewind it over and over again. What do you think is, how does that stick with a musician, like having to learn it that way versus just going on YouTube and learning it?
Well, back in those days, you needed patience.
Yes, sir.
That's the main thing.
Yep.
And these days, you don't need patience. It's a micro age. Everybody want it quick, fast, in a hurry. So it's like these younger musicians, they don't have the patience that we had, the patience that I had to have to get to certain levels. They're trying to grasp everything now, and that's the culture we live in, man. Even in our church culture, folk don't want to serve. They want to go online and pay a fee and become a bishop. They don't want to. They don't want to actually earn the title spiritually in the spirit realm. They just want to carry it. But it's like that's how a lot of them are. It's just that the main thing is patience, man. We, I did that, and I was just talking to one of my big bros, producer Eric Davis, that did a lot of Youth for Praise earlier work. Um, I was talking to him about that. I said, man, I just sit in my room and sit on my floor and like imitate the whole album, whole Youth for Praise album, and just sit there and just imitate it and just be like, you know, rewind the song back. Okay, now I'm gonna pay attention to what the bass did. Okay, rewind the song back. Okay, what did Eric do on this song on keys? Rewind the song back. Okay, let me see if I can mimic the drums. You know what I'm saying? I did a lot of that stuff growing up. I was weird. You know, I had pillows set up everywhere. Then when I was really trying to get my keyboard swag, I had a chair set up in my room and I was acting like I was playing the keys before I really could practice. And I'll be acting like, okay, it should look like this. I would be, it was just we had patience to sit back and listen, break it down, and then you ain't have a whole lot of slow mo stuff back then. You didn't have all that stuff. You had to literally sit and listen, break it down, and dissect it for yourself. So patience. That's why patience is. They say patience is a virtue. Patience is what separates this generation from the generations before. I strongly believe.
For sure. Yeah, it definitely is something that sticks with you, because even now, we do have the tool of YouTube if necessary. But I feel like a lot of people that are older would rather learn it by listening rather than going and looking at the tutorial, doing it the quick way.
Hmm.
Because this is a microwave generation. We all benefit from it in one way or another. But there are definitely some virtues from how we came up and everything that is great to hold on to. And even if you're starting out, I feel like it's a good thing to be able to like literally grind, because it gets a part of you, just learning it and stuff like that.
Grinding is one of the best learning experiences. You know, that's one of the best things. One of the best. You got to have experience. That's one of the best things to do is to just get experience. It's not always about what you sat down and, you know, learned and all that stuff. Street smarts is still a thing. That's why I tell people all the time, like street smarts is still a thing. Everything is not by the book. Some
Yeah,
folk
you're right.
some things is it's about what you've learned through your experiences. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's where we at, man.
So you talked about how you were listening to the Youthful Praise albums, and I find it very interesting that you said that you weren't just listening to the keys, you weren't just studying the keys. So I feel like that probably played a big part in you not just being just a keys player or just a drummer, but actually becoming a producer. Because obviously the producer doesn't just pay attention to their favorite instrument; they got to know every part of the band and what the band is doing and how to coordinate it and everything like that. So talk about how the difference between being just a keys player, just a guitar player, and being a producer as far as a mindset from your perspective.
Well, the mindset is simple. When you're a producer, even just a music director, you can be an MD and a producer. Those a lot of times, to a certain extent, when the music is played, those go hand, or to a certain extent, they go hand in hand. Um, to be a producer, to be a MD, you have to have an ear for everything. You have to have an ear for placement. You have to have an ear to know who's supposed to be doing what and when they're supposed to be doing it. You have to have an ear to not just hear yourself, in the equation. I think that's where a lot of folks mess up. They only listen to themselves in the equation. That's how you can tell who's a good MD and who's not, who's a good producer and who's not. You hear keyboard players that want to call themselves producers, and then all you hear is their keys all in the mix, is because that's all they were worried about. But when you're really a producer, you know when your keys need to be hidden in the mix and what needs to be, have the light shined on them. What aspects you listen to all those things. That's the difference between a regular just a player versus a MD or a producer. You have to have an ear for this, and this is a lot of, like I just said, a lot of what I'm talking about is about experience. It's not about, sitting and letting somebody tell you all this and showing you everything, taking you by your hand and showing you everything. A lot of this is about experience, man. You have to have an ear to understand what's supposed to happen, when it's supposed to happen, how it's supposed to happen. If you don't have that, you're out of luck, really. But but for me, that definitely helped me to understand. And then listening to, it depends on who you're listening to. For me, I grew up listening to Jonathan DeBose, so I knew what guitar players were supposed to do. And I think I went live the other day because I was just so infatuated with what Uncle Johnny sent me back. I'm working on a record with my boy out in Texas, and Uncle Johnny sent me back his guitars, and I was just like, God, this is amazing because I didn't have to tell him to do anything, and he did everything I needed him to do. And it was just like I grew up listening to that because Uncle Johnny was on them YP records. He was on the Kim Burrell Everlasting Life record. So when I listened to, Kim Burrell Everlasting Life, and shout out to Alex Ward, who's one of my, major influences when it comes to producing. Alex Ward is like my top guy. He put me on some of my first records. My first big record with Maurette Brown Clark, Alex Ward put me on. But when I listen to his production, and I'm listening to where everything is sitting, I'm like, okay, it makes sense. You have to literally dissect that stuff. So when you go to produce, all right, this can't be just about bass. This can't be just about drums. This can't be just about licks on the drums. Everything's got to sit in its own place. So yeah, I mean, I tell people like, listen, just listen to music back and forth, get it in your head, pay attention to what you're listening to. Don't just don't just be an organist and try and listen for what the organist is doing. You got to listen to everything. You know, that's just that's my take on that.
Yeah, it's really so it's definitely a mindset that you have to have.
Yeah, it's definitely mindset to care about every aspect of music. You, know, you gotta care about it. I don't play guitar. I
Mhm.
love guitar, but at the end of the day, I know where it's supposed to be in the music. You know what I'm saying? You know, I play drums. And that's one of my first instruments. So I get it.
Mhm.
You gotta really, even if you're not gonna create the music, to produce it, you have to understand what, even in editing, you have to understand what is what. You know what I mean? You gotta have an ear for that.
Yeah, and I definitely saw that when we recorded the Only Jesus Live project. Just leading up to it, just how every little detail of every instrument counted. Like what the bass was doing, he couldn't just do what he wanted. It had to be
No.
play it like the reference. The drums had to play it like the
Yeah.
reference. So, and that's when I saw because I asked you to produce because I figured based on what I heard, I think the main thing I heard was the Kim Burrell song "Thank You Lord." When I heard that you produced that, that's basically what caused me to give you the call for our joint. But then like seeing how like you were so focused on every little detail, that let me know for sure. Oh yeah, he's not just an organist. He's not just a keys player. Like he's a legit producer. Not that there was any question, but that like solidified it. And you mentioned Alex Ward, or some people know him as Asa Ward, as a big influence. A couple months ago, he made a post and he was talking about the difference between a session musician and just a gigging musician. I want to hear your perspective on that. Like, what do you think is the difference?
Oh man, the gigging musician is gonna get you through the gig. Session musician is gonna get you, is gonna get you paid. And when you know how to cut sessions, that means you know how to you know how to play parts specifically. When you're a gigging musician, a lot of times there's musicians that we're only going to call when we need to get through the gig, because when you're doing a gig in front of a bunch of folk who a lot of times don't have a specific ear, they you can get through, you can get over on them not being specific in your playing. And this is what, like, I've even talked to y'all about, being mindful of how your music comes across when you're actually gigging versus what we've done in the studio.
Yeah.
Because what they're hearing now from the studio, from the session, is specific music.
Mhm.
So when they come to your concerts expecting to hear that, and I'm just using y'all as an example.
Yeah.
If they come to a McCain concert, they're expecting to hear specific music. But a lot of times, the live elements can take away from that.
Mhm.
The live element of the concert, the live feel of the concert can overshadow the mistakes. And sometimes the gigging musicians will make mistakes and it'll get over because it's like, okay, they're not paying attention. They don't have that specific ear, strategic ear to hear the mistakes. They just love what's coming together in the camaraderie of the band and of the artists. But you're not going to call those folks that can't remember drum patterns to come and play a session.
Yeah.
I'm not calling you. You can't retain music. You can't retain music enough to play it to where we don't have to go back and redo it. So that's a you know the main difference. Like there's a great difference in those guys. Certain guys you're gonna call. you know, to get through the church service, get through the little gig or whatever, and do it. And then certain people you're gonna call to be the blueprint, to create, to be that guy that's gonna make the sound for the gigging musician. You know, that's what a session musician is. It's the blueprint. Calvin Rogers is gonna be the blueprint for whatever drummer. When he gets finished playing, this is what the song should sound like. You know what I mean? When Eddie Brown get finished playing on the record, that's what the piano player should be doing. You know what I'm saying? All those things. You know, AJ Brown on bass. Once he get finished playing, Adam Johnson. I mean, I'm just throwing names out there. Once these cats get finished playing, you hear these cats on, you know, Kenny Shelton, Kenny Leonard. You hear these cats on these records. And once they get finished playing, it's a blueprint. And a lot of gigging musicians don't know how to be a blueprint. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Oh, that's good. That's really great. I hope those listening that aspire to be session musicians, especially if you're younger, I say take this advice now and apply it and really change up your approach. Specifics. Yep, that's what it is right there. Because this is coming from somebody that started off doing live recordings really early. I know you were a teenager, but like how old were you when you did your first live recording?
Man, Doobie let me play on a record. I was like 14, 15. Um, I got Doobie kind of actually gave me like my first placement on his first record, The Offspring. I helped co-write a song on that record called I Got Jesus.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I came up with the music, but this other girl wrote it, and I was just like my first record. Like that was my first, record, that I played on. I did crazy stuff, man. I missed my senior prom to do a recording in St. Louis. People was like, "You don't want to go to your prom?" I was like, "For what?
Yep.
A dance?"
You ain't missing
Man, I'm trying to go to St. Louis. Yeah, I was different, man. I was different growing up. It was weird, man.
It paid off though for sure.
Oh man, I pray, God is good.
Yeah. I'm sure your approach now is a little different from back then. But like how just for those that are paying it, watching this and want to learn, what is your mental approach? Like if you're not the MD and you got to learn all this music for a record, and you're the keys player, and like you said, you want to lay that blueprint. What is your approach in studying the music, developing your own kind of path?
Drill myself until I got it. See, a lot of musicians today, they practice it enough to get familiar with it. Don't stop there. Drill yourself until you can literally play this music in your sleep. And one thing that I live by is that I always, no matter what or where, whatever opportunity I have, you always have something to prove. I don't care how great you are. I don't care how many concerts you've done. I don't care how many places you've been. There's always somebody who does not know who you are, who does not know what you can bring to the table. There's always going to be an opportunity for you to prove to somebody why you were chosen. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when I'm doing stuff, I just did a thing for, shout out to my boy Freddie Washington. I just did a thing for Times Square Church for their New Year's recording, pre-recording. And, you know, we did some great stuff there, man. And I wasn't really the MD. Freddie was the MD. He sent me the music, and I just learned it. And my job, when you're not the MD, and this is for all the musicians, when you're not the MD, your job is to find a way to enhance the situation. And sometimes your way to enhance the situation is simply to just know your part. That's enhancement right there. The fact that they don't gotta stress about you. That's an enhancement right there. So, for like, and I use Freddie's gig. We did the gig for the Times Square Church. That was amazing, I didn't even know that church existed. Um, until it told me, I was like, Times Square Church, okay. He was like, yeah, it's right in the middle of Times Square, New York. They're doing a pre-taping. You can see the ball drop from the church. So they had this room on the church owns like a whole block, and on one of the corners, they have a corner room with glass all around it. You can look right into Times Square, see the ball drop.
Oh, wow.
So they did. So they did a pre-taping, pre-New Year's Eve taping, and we're there. And I was going through at the moment. I just lost my grandmother, and I had to go to her funeral and different things. And I was late getting to the first day of taping, but it was like it's cool. You grieving. You had to go to your grandmother's funeral. It's cool. I got there. I got there late, and where you're dealing with people who've never seen you before, so they're already like, okay, this guy is late. Now, what are we gonna have to deal with? Is he gonna come in here? We gotta rehearse. We gotta do all this, man. And it was just like they were like, you saw the sign of relief on them. And I came in, and I put my, they was ready to tape, and I put my little vest on or whatever, my sweater on, and they hit that red dot. And I came in, I just started playing the music, and they was like, "Oh, so he knows the music already?" You don't understand how much that is not common nowadays. People really becoming unprepared. Like a lot of times, you find my way to enhance was the fact that I came there straight from my grandmother's funeral, and I came there ready to play.
Mhm.
That was my enhancement to them, to that whole situation. I wasn't the MD, but I was the main keys player. When I got there, that they didn't have to worry about anything. They didn't have to worry about do we need to take an hour so he can learn the stuff. They we went in, boom, we hit them songs, and it was like, oh, we're actually good. We don't need to record anymore tonight. We'll pick back up tomorrow. All right, bet. And then we left. So it's like you have to always make sure you know that you got something to prove, man. You can't be sitting up there, acting like you're the man. And if you don't know the music, they just got to understand this because you just got so much going on that learning this music was just not on your things to do. No, I'm never calling you back. I don't care how good you are. You don't retain music, and if you come to rehearsal or the gig unprepared, especially rehearsal. Rehearsal is for us to put the music together. It's not really for you to learn the music. It's for you to go over what you've reviewed. Like rehearsal is like the quiz before the test.
That's good.
You know what I mean? You're supposed to come in, this is what I've been studying. Put it together. Make the conversation be cohesive. You know what I mean? The conversation between the band, between the singers, between the artists, between the rhythm section, whatever. Make that conversation be cohesive, and then you go and take the test and do the live show, the live recording, whatever. But you should come to rehearsal, ready, especially if you're not the MD. Like you're not the MD. This the least you can do is know your part.
Right.
The least you can do.
Right.
So that's just my mindset is always, and I did Control Reagan live recording. They called me. They had a slight snafu um, with the music, and they called me, or with the band, and they called me, the week of. I made it. I told them, yeah, I'll do it. Okay, so that means I'm gonna have to make the sacrifice and get on my organ and learn the music.
Yeah.
So when I show up to rehearsal, you know, they can see and hear that okay, this is the missing piece. This is what we were missing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We can't see, and I've been in, I take it as a compliment when people come up to me, even Freddie came up to me, he was like, I don't, now that you've done it, I couldn't see this being done with anybody else. You know what I'm saying? I can't hear it. I can't even hear nobody else on this stuff. You know, that's the type of marriage I build with the music, when I'm doing stuff, and that takes time. It's patience. It's
Yeah.
patience, man.
That's great advice, honestly. All right. So speaking of being prepared for sessions, like you play for countless sessions. I'm sure you probably don't know the number. But out of all of the recordings, out of all the recordings, album sessions that you played on, which one is your favorite and why is it Only Jesus Live? So, no, I'm just playing. excluding Only Jesus Live. Do you happen to have a favorite?
Man,
And if you don't, I got to answer. If you don't, I got to answer.
I've never been asked that question before. So I'm really trying to think if I have a favorite recording. Dang. I've never been asked that question. There's a lot of recordings out there though. So I couldn't tell you honestly. I've had so much fun doing recordings. I just really don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite. I really don't. I never really gauge. I would have to sit down and think about that. Like, because I've had so many great experiences, thank God, doing these live recordings, different things. I would really have to sit down and think about that. Like, what is my favorite? Hmm, that's a good one. Hmm, I'll think about that. You said you got an answer for me?
Yeah, my answer, as far as the stuff that I've heard a lot of them that you played on. My favorite right now is Eric Waddell. I think it's called The Hour of Power. Let me tell y'all, I literally be like, I study that album. And if you haven't heard it, you need to go check it out, especially if you a keys player. Oh man, like literally one of the best piano performances I've ever heard on a record. And I think that was like that was Kevin flexing. Like, okay, y'all think y'all think I'm an organist. All right, y'all think it's sweet. Here we go. Like literally, that's if you want to study to get better, listen to that album and study it. Like literally study it. Like I get.
You know what though? It's funny you said that. That Eric Waddell is definitely in my top, like my top five, top three probably, because that record, the Lord was with me. I'm not even trying to be funny. Because I actually didn't. All those pianos are from that night. Like I didn't do any overdubs on that record.
That's crazy.
So like I was just I don't know. It was just something. I don't know. It was something about that music. It just had me. And they say I was in my bag. I wouldn't say that. I just was really locked in. I think I was really locked in because we had been rehearsing like that whole week, and it was just like to know the music before you get to rehearsal and then still rehearse a whole week. You have no choice but to be locked in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like that was definitely another one of my favorite records that I did is Kiki BRL live in Chicago.
It's between those two because that's the first record I heard you on because I was late. I ain't gonna lie, I was late to the party. I didn't know about you like that. So like I had heard about you a little bit before that record came out, and to this day, probably that song "People" here at least top three.
That's funny because that was like my least. I didn't like playing that song. I don't know why I didn't like playing that song. I just didn't like playing that song. I don't know what was wrong with me.
So for me, the first time I heard it, I remember I was like halfway asleep. I'm listening. I'm like, yo, this song is weird. Like, what? They all over. Like, it sounded like the band was in one key and she was singing in one key.
Yep.
Yeah. And then after I played it back,
Jay Drew did all that. That was all Jay Drew's doing.
I played it back. I was like, yo, this is genius. She shouted you out and everything. Like, come on, Kevin, go with me here. Of course, yo.
That was fun. Of course, I would have to say Moret's record. That was my first big record. So like I didn't sleep at all doing that record. I was just like just on, and I was working with Eddie Brown and Spanky and, Sheree Reed, it was just like Timmy Stewart on guitar. It was just, yeah, it was crazy. Anthony Brown and group therapy on backgrounds. That was like my first round. Like I was on, you would have thought I drunk 8 pots of coffee. I couldn't sleep a wink in that hotel room. I was just like, man, I can't believe this. I can't wait. This is crazy.
So
Definitely.
speaking of that, so if let's say, um, first let's say, all right, let's say you're playing either keys or organ, and what would be your dream band, like as far as like people that you'd like to play with, if you had to do like
That I
just
haven't played with.
like for a record.
Like people that I haven't played with yet that I would like to play with.
Um, so I want to include people that, because I know there's a lot of people you look up to that you've already played with. So just anybody. If you had to make the call, I'm calling all the musicians anywhere in the world, and let's say it's a gospel record, and you know it's going to be a classic record. Who are you going to call?
I've never got a chance. Well, I've done stuff with Calvin Rogers in the studio, but never live.
Okay.
I would love to try and get a chance to do a session with Calvin, the C Rod. Um, I would have to call. There's so many though. Like there's so many. Um, man, I said let's say Calvin on drums, and then you got, let's see who's on bass. Let's see. You got Snoop. You got Adam Johnson. You got Alpheus Bennett. Alpheus is my little brother. Alpheus is the sleeper out of the crew because people just don't realize how they understand how dope Alpheus is. He just he's not on the scene like that, like he should be.
Yeah,
You-
yeah, that's true. I agree.
But you got Al. I would love to do a record with you know that is Trivet on bass. You know that's the homie. Um, then you got Bubba. You got what's my man's name? Bubba plays bass. I can't think of his last name. Out in L.A. He's amazing.
Not be dub, right?
It's But of course, you got B Dub too. But it's oh man, it's that's hard, man. I mean, of course, I got Chris Payton, Johnny Fung on guitar. If y'all know who Johnny Fung is, you just need to look him up. He's great. Um, of course, Uncle Johnny. Um, I don't know, man. I'm really trying to narrow it down. I really am.
That's all good. You named some heavy hitters. So
It's like, man, like there's so many out there, bro. Like if I had to assemble a team for like crazy record, I would. Hmm, I'm gonna write it down.
cool. We
I'm gonna pray about it. I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna ask the Lord to guide me, lead me, and guide me.
yeah, because we preparing for this to really happen. We're not, we ain't just talking. We really trying to see this happen. So
Hey, no, bro. No, excuse me. Man, there's so many out there, though, man. It's so many out there. I would love, like, you talking about the heavy hitters. Of course, like I said, you got the C Rides, you got, there's a couple other drummers out there um that I love. But then you got, Snoop on bass. You can do Snoop on bass. You can do AJ Brown, you can do Thaddeus Tribbett. There's just so many combinations you can throw at him. Uncle Johnny, you know, on guitar, Chris Payton, Johnny Fung. Those are like my three favorite guitar players right there. And of course, you got the Glenn Gibsons, you got the Rodney East, and it's like it would be so unorthodox to have like Rodney, you know, and or somebody like that, because Rodney East just has such a different. He's just his own person.
Yeah, literally.
Nobody sounds like them. Nobody sounds like Rodney.
Yeah, closest might be Jason Tyson, but even he got his own sound too.
But they boys, but they got Rodney has patent like the Chicago sound, like he's the guy out there. There's so many combos you can throw at that man. I really don't know. But I'm like Alex Ward, where he doesn't believe in just using one set of people. He likes switching it up.
Mhm.
So it all depends on what we would have to what type of record it is,
Yeah.
all that type of stuff. But yeah, like that's man, you got Uncle Dave on organ, Dave Blakely,
Yeah.
you got Mike B, there's so many people you can call, man. Um just, there's so many ways to go at that, man. I don't know. I really don't know.
But yeah, you definitely named like endless heavy hitters. So either way that combination shakes is gonna be
It's gonna hit. Like of course you got Lawrence Jones. Lawrence Jones is amazing guitar. That's the homie. So many people. So many people. Um, there's a lot of dope cats out there. Kenny Shelton, man,
that
man, he's unheard of, man. James Ash.
dude.
Yeah,
Yo,
yeah, I was too. I met him. I just met James like a couple years ago, and I was like, dang, who was that? He was killing. It's just Jaden Arnold. Man,
that guy. Talk about a prodigy.
yeah, it's Prodigy. I, there's so many. Daryl Freeman.
Legend.
It's just there's so many ways you could go. Mhm.
Yeah, man. But we speaking it though, like you gonna be in that position too where you can just call people. So we already setting it up now.
Oh,
So
I'm receiving it. I
yes, sir.
receive it in Jesus' name.
Yes, sir. So all right, so we coming to a close soon, but I appreciate your time once again, man. But
I appreciate
so,
it. I'm about to go get something to eat. I'm about to pass out.
all right,
But,
cool. But yeah, so you already have the privilege, the opportunity, the blessing to play for, in my eyes, the greatest artist that almost ever do gospel, Fred Hammond, the legendary Fred Hammond. We already got an inside joke about that one, but man, that's that. I know you're not supposed to be jealous. I know you're not supposed to be jealous, but man, but at the same time, it's like I'm living vicariously through you because I'm every time I see you playing, I'm like, man, I'd be happy like because that's legendary. But is there any artist like not even just gospel, like just in general that would be your dream to play for?
well, that was Fred Hammond was definitely one of the open doors in 2020. Like he hit me out of nowhere. I was like, nephew. I was like, that's Fred Hammond for real? Oh shoot. Yeah, I got an organ in my studio. You need organ done? Absolutely. Turn that thing right on. um, the artist that I would love to play for, I would love to go out with Kurt Franklin. Kurt Franklin, you know, absolutely. I would love to go out on the road with Kurt Franklin and like have a lot of fun on that gig. I just organ wise and stuff, I would have so much fun on that gig. I feel like, you know, Terry Baker, that's another guy. Terry's one of my guys. Love Terry Baker. So I would love to like be in the mix on that. Like that would be dope.
Yeah, Kirk got a live show like nobody else. That's
Mhm.
it. So if you ever got on that gig, that'll be I already know that'll be crazy because that like when you
I got I got a phone call.
oh okay yeah you good.
Watch this. Crystal Rucker.
How you doing? It's late there.
I'm on a podcast with my boy the McCains.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Okay.
I was just we was just I was just getting ready to bring your name up, but we gonna I'm gonna call you. Just stay right by your phone. I'm gonna call you right back.
How you
Okay.
doing? How you doing, Sister Crystal Rucker?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good to hear from you. God bless you. Hope all is well.
Bless you. Thank you. All is well. Same to you.
Thank
All
you.
right, Chris. I'm gonna call you right back.
Okay. Bye-bye.
See, man, that's the type of person we dealing with right here. Never could get a call from.
Dude, we've been playing phone tag. We have literally been playing phone tag since like 2 p.m. So like I'm like, oh Lord, I gotta answer now. She gonna get mad. But we trying to we working on some music. But yeah, I would love to go out. I would love to go out on the road with Kurt Franklin. That's one gig I would love to do.
So one thing that you said during the week when we recorded, I know I keep referencing that, but we about to do it again just in case you were wondering. We about to do it again in a couple months. But one thing that you said was, and I know I might have messed up the wording on it, but if average is acceptable, amazing isn't achievable. Is
Bishop
that how it
Dixon
goes?
in Houston, Texas said that to me, and that's stuck with me ever since.
And the good thing about that quote is it's not just it don't just apply to music. That's literally life advice. Like when I heard that, I was just like looking at my life, like, man, what am I doing? Because like a lot of times, just based on circumstances stuff, you kind of settle with good enough. But like if you're really trying to make a mark and make a difference, like you really have to push past being
Past being, you got to push
average.
past being mediocre. You got to push past being good. Acceptable. You know,
Yep,
what's the least I can do?
right.
And it's like that's not even good for God. It's like why are you gonna subject everybody else to that type of thinking?
Exactly.
Nah, man, you gotta be careful. You gotta go hard in everything. You know, some of the greatest people in the world in entertainment and basketball, Kobe, Jordan. These cats didn't just get by. They're not who they are. Kobe wasn't who he was because he was just good enough. This the same Kobe that when he lost in the playoffs, he flew back home and he went to the gym and didn't come out the gym for days. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's a mindset. You're gonna be average, okay, be average.
Mhm.
But don't you dare try to make that the new standard. Don't you dare try to make that the new high.
Mhm.
Nah, if that's your standard, stay down there where you at and leave us alone. I'm gonna go be greater than great.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go be up there. You know what I mean? And be a difference, man. I don't know.
Sure. Yep. And once again, coming to a close, but one of the things I was so happy to see, it wasn't 2020, but I think it was like a 2019 blessing, somewhere around there when well, I think it started around 2018 when you got signed by Nord. It was around the same time you got signed by Hammond. And I just really appreciate what they do because, like, a lot of times I think your whole family is underrated, even though very appreciated throughout, the gospel musician community, but at the same time underrated. So for them to put the spotlight on you and some other musicians, and then you got a video with them that's like over 500,000 views right now. And
Really?
the good thing
I didn't
about it
know
is,
that.
say again.
I said I didn't know. I honestly didn't know that.
Yeah, tried it. Everybody's seen that. But
Wow.
the good thing is that like just showing the type of person you were, that was your moment. But in that video, you called up Glenn Gibson, and just you know, what I mean, you brought him out there as well. So that just shows like what type of person you are. It's not all about you. It's about reaching out, helping somebody else, not being threatened by their gift, because that happens a lot of times. People will be good, and then somebody else will be popular or have a name behind them. Like, nah, we can't be seen together. They're gonna take some of my shine, or they might make me look bad or something like that. And both you guys are beasts, but like I said, a lot of people wouldn't do that. But you were cool with having him along, giving him his shine.
You're either gonna be a part of somebody's, come up, or you're gonna be against it.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? And what I did what I reciprocated what happened to me. Real quick, before I go get me some chicken. That's something my dad would say when he's preaching. I'm gonna hurry up and close, and we can all go get a piece of fried chicken. But no, like, what happened, how it happened with Nord, man. And I'll tell this story because there's so much being said about Nord. There's so much being said about the artists of Nord, and people have their fixations and their opinions, and they think their opinions are Bible, and they have no idea what they're talking about. A lot of them are very ignorant in what they've been saying, and so I tell people, I say, you want to know what happened, go straight to the source, and so really quickly, that's how it happened for me. I was hanging out. My brother Doobie talked me into going to NAM in 2018. No, in 2017. No, in 2018. I'm right. Yeah, 2018. My brother Doobie talked me into going to NAM. I went to NAM for the first time ever. And I was just there, and I was just sitting there like, oh my God, this is overload. And seeing all my homies, all the musician friends, everybody. And saw my boy Jesus Molina, told me, he said, hey, I'm playing at the Nord booth. You should come by. They need to meet you. I was like, all right, I'll come by, but I ain't tripping. I ain't come here for no endorsements, man. My brother made me come here, man. I wasn't even trying to come here. I'm just being like that. Yeah. I'm like, and then I got to the booth. I was hanging out with my cousin, Kenny Leonard, actually. Mm-hmm. Tasha Cobb's husband. We're hanging out, and he was like, yo, man, let's go. So first things first, I did go to the Hammond booth because my good friend Jimmy Smith is a Hammond rep. He invited me to the booth. He said, yo, come hang out, man. Hammond need to meet you, man. I went to the Hammond booth. I played for about 10 minutes and, just have fun on their new Hammond organ. Have fun. They told me they wanted to sign me. I said, all right, cool. I'll be honored. I love Hammond organs. So I'm excited. Jesus tells me to come to the Nord booth. I wasn't even going to go. But Kenny Leonard was like, no, let's go, man. Let's go. Man, I know the people over there too. Blah, blah, blah. We went. I watched Jesus play. And I was just like amazed because he's unreal. Jesus is unreal, man. And once he got finished, people were clapping, and he saw me. He was like, come. And he sits down on the piano, and he starts playing Doobie songs. He starts playing Agnes Day, Doobie's version.
Yeah.
So he makes me sit down on the organ. So I sit down on the organ, and we're playing Agnes Day, and he's we're just having fun. Now what happens is when we got done with it, we get up, we're talking to people, shaking hands. What I didn't realize is that the owner and CEO, creator of Nord, was standing behind me the whole time. Oh, wow. And so I'm like, Jesus introduces me, all these people, and he says, this is Hans Nordelius. And I'm like, okay. It was like, no, this dude that invented Nord. I'm like, oh wow, okay, pleasure to meet you. Mr. Hans, I call him Mr. Hans. He had his wife with him. Mr. Hans' wife said to me, she said, I really enjoyed you. I said, thank you. Pleasure, Now, all this time, I wasn't even trying to, I'm just chilling. I'm not expecting nothing. She comes back to me and says, um, no, Mr. Hines comes back to me and says, my wife wants you to play again. She wants to know if you will play for her again. And I was like, I'm good. I'm about to go. I'm hungry. And the Spirit of the Lord said, be obedient. And I was like, oh, okay, God, okay. I sat down at Oregon. I started playing hymns. I played like I went church. I said, I'm a church musician. I said that to the audience because they was all still standing. They were like, no, play again, please. And I said, hey, let's go to church then. I started playing the blood that Jesus. And I was just like having fun on the organ. I played like Amazing Grace and different things. When I got done, she was crying. She had tears in her eyes. And she said something to her husband. He walks back up to me. Mr. Hines walks back up to me and says, my wife wants to know, why aren't we paying you to play our product? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I said, hey, I love Nord. I just came over here, just because it was Nord, you know. And he said, do you have any business cards or anything? It was so much convention talking going on that week that I gave out all my business cards. And I didn't have any to give. I didn't have any to give to Mr. Hines. So I literally had to write my stuff down on a piece of paper. And I said, I'm sorry, I ran out of business cards. He took it, he laughed, and he was like, we'll be in touch. And he left and caught a plane back to Sweden. A week later, I had an email with documentation and paperwork to sign to become a Nord artist. And they were like, well, what do you do? We want to know what your tour dates. Can you send us your tour date schedules? I was like, I don't tour. I was like, oh, well, that's fine. Mr. Hines told us to just give you an endorsement. He said give you our standard endorsement for all of our artists. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Rest is history. This wasn't no climbing up on other folks' back. What happened there, what Jesus did for me, I wanted to reciprocate that for other folk. So the next year they asked me to perform at the booth. That's where you seen Glenn coming up.
Yep.
And I wouldn't even it wasn't even planned. It literally was not planned. I'm grooving and it's just me and Alpheus in my tracks. And I'm just grooving. And I saw Glenn. I was like, yo. And he just came up. The rest is history. You know what I'm saying? And people, I tell people, if you really knew the backstory, you just shut up and thank God and praise God for the doors that He's opened. When you learn how to celebrate other folk, God, He'll make it happen for you. So,
Yeah, well, was well deserving. Like I said, like earlier, you one of the greatest organists, keyboard players, producers. You're a songwriter as well. Dope at that. You a deacon, all of that. And I'm the type of person. The reason I ask so many questions, I like giving people the flowers while they can still smell them. I live ever since I heard that lyric. I'm like, man, that's how you gotta live. Like,
love them now. Love them now.
Yep.
Don't wait till later. Love them now.
Yeah, not even just because it's popular, just because you appreciate somebody. So I appreciate all you've done. You huge inspiration when we talk and when I'm just studying what you do from afar. So I appreciate you for doing this interview.
Man, I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. I pray that God continues to open many more doors. I'm excited to see what He's about to do in your life, man. It's gonna be incredible.
Look, I'm excited for you, man.
Appreciate
Great things are on the horizon for you. Keep pushing, keep practicing, keep doing your great man, y'all got some, you know, you yourself, y'all got so many more levels to climb, and it's only up from here. It's just gonna get better and better. So you keep going, man.
Yeah.
Keep going and keep pushing my niece and nephew.
Yep.
I want to see them in that studio some more.
Yep.
I want to see them in that studio.
Yep. Yeah. I'm gonna capture some more when
That is fun.
Yeah. I got so many videos, but I can't post them because the house ain't quite right. But
Man, I love that, man. I love that, man. I'm gonna go have me some kids tomorrow. So.
oh, all right, cool. I bet you need
Go
to.
tomorrow. I'm gonna go tomorrow and get some.
Yeah. But yeah, so once again, this is the Interlude with Drew interview with super producer, musician Kevin Powell. And as I always say, only what you do for Christ will last. Take it one day at a time.
That's it.
Keep pushing.
It's not in vain. What you do for Christ is not in vain.
Ah,
God bless y'all, man. Happy 2021. Y'all stay safe. Practice your social distancing. Wear your mask. Consider everybody else around you. We've lost way too many people, you know, and sadly, some out of ignorance. Stay safe. Do what you got to do. Stay safe. God bless y'all, man. Drew, love you, man.
love you, my dude.
All right.
It's the Interlude with Drew. It's the Interlude with Drew.
Welcome to the Interlude with Drew.